Oops. Let's try again.
Hello, Mr. President. How are you?
No, even that didn't help. Let me show you what happened.
Here less than 3 hours ago, but already we have a result, a historic result. Viktor Orban, as you say, conceding defeat, marking the end of his 16-year rule here in Hungary. There was a concern that he wouldn't go quietly, having built a system that...
Köszönjük a jelölt emberfeletti munkáját! Ez az a felhatalmazás,
He's gone. He lost. So even the vice president of the US trying to help him, as you saw in that earlier clip, it didn't help. He's gone. And the reason I showed you that clip as well as the demise of this gentleman, it's about week 14 in my 5 minutes of fame, which this week the focus is on elections and voting and things to do with that way of allowing citizens to express their views and elect their representatives. And the focus is really on the Somali community in Australia. Many times I said as a disclaimer that my 5 minutes of fame through the Substack posts, the focus is always Somalia. And this time it's more on the Somalis in the diaspora, especially in Australia. Therefore, this week I'm going to talk about voting, elections, why we have to vote, what are elections. So please read below, both in Somali and English, and watch the rest of this clip. So why vote? Why do we have to vote? What are elections all about? And so on. This is this week's topic. And I want to focus on the Somali community in Australia. There will be a state election soon, and we want to start using some of the ideas I'm going to share with you here and elsewhere, one-to-one later on, mechanisms to encourage our community to vote. Now, I want to share this with you. I did a random sample. Of course, it's not conclusive, it's not scientific, it's not, we cannot make decisions based on that rough sample. But over the last few days, I was calling a lot of my Somali folks, some of my contacts in the malls, over the phone, face-to-face, and so on, asking one simple question: how often they vote, whether it's state or federal. And the answers were not interesting. Let's just leave it there. In fact, they were discouraging, to be honest. And that apparently, some studies I looked at and some other readings I did on voting and election, it seems to be a similar pattern in other communities. And as I said, that was a really good sample. That was just for me to start this project and to get some data, just to get some idea. So yes, our voting patterns are very low. In other words, a lot of our community members do not vote, whatever the reason, and I'll get into that in the next session and so on. So this 5 minutes for this week, week 14, I'm going to share with you some of the reasons why we have to vote. What's the significance? It's not a new topic for me. We talked about this in the referendum some time ago, and even the one before that, referendum, maybe not referendum because of the two. And my point was the same. We have to vote, 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 vote. Why? It's the only power you have as a citizen. In fact, I can go beyond that. I can even claim it's the only time as a Somali citizen, who now is an Australian citizen and member of our community here, It's the only time you have the same power as a politician or even the prime minister. Your vote is just as good as any other person. So you can make a difference. So that is really the topic of this week, and read below more of this. I know we have done another week a few days ago, but this cannot wait. This is kind of urgent projects that we have to all do. And I started with a clip before, just to show you today is a historical day about another election that happened in Europe, just to get you excited and motivated to read and listen to this topic. So that's what we're talking about this week, and that's the focus. Why we have to vote, what is voting about, elections, why do you have to enroll, and so on and so forth. It's very, very interesting topic. So I hope you read, and your comments and feedback as always.